time frame market structure. Does this make sense? Right? When you have, let's say, a daily candle, okay, let's look at some wick fills here. So when you have a daily candle like this, right, and the daily candle has a wick to fill like this. So the next daily candle is probably going to form like something like this, right, with a wick on top and with a wick on bottom. Make sense? This is going to be the daily candle. But now when you're looking at smaller time frames, your smaller time frames are probably going to be something like this, like price went down, it made a low, right? It went up, it made a high, it moved down, rejected it, and then it continued to move down. Right? So this high right here, this was probably a top wick of this daily candle. Right? And then it had a small rejection over here, right? A candle exhausted. Now when price moves in, now when price is not going to move all the way down in smaller time frames because it has to move in a wave, right? Like it has to make small corrections. That's what's happening here. Price moved down, rejected a support to move up, made a wick here on the daily candle, moved down, rejected it, and then continued to move down again. And then moved up again to do a retest, and then continue to move down. It's really easy to draw these patterns here on the screen, like it's really easy, but it's really hard to identify it on the chart. LTF is lower time frame. Yeah, so it's a liquidity wick right here. So this is the daily candle's liquidity wick, like it needed some gas to move up, to continue moving down. Right, so let me just show you in a chart example over here. We're going to see it in a chart example, man. This is a 4-hour chart here. And then you have, this is a 1-hour chart. Right? So 4-hour chart, 1-hour chart. Right? Notice how this price moved up on the 4-hour and then it started to move down. It made this arc. So when you're looking at the 1-hour, you see the same thing, like it moved up, it maybe reached a resistance here, which was support, and started to move down. And then you had this wick up over here. This wick up was a liquidity wick on the 4-hour. And then what happened? It started to move down to support. So now next, let's look at the 15-minute. I'll give you even more information. This is the 15-minute time frame. Now you see you have a lot more information. You have a lot more, you have some consolidation going on. You have some haphazard movements which you don't know about. Because now if you look at this candle here, seems like, okay, we're probably going to move up. Because candles are closing above EMAs and Wicks on Light says, oh, candles are closing above EMAs, it's going to move up. Well, it stopped me out, right? Because you're looking at the smaller time frame. And smaller time frame zones are weak. Right? So when you're looking at the higher time frame, you see that, okay, 1-hour candles closing below the 14 EMA and like, you know, there's momentum, it's being rejected. And the 4-hour over here, it rejected a resistance. So maybe the next 4 hours is going to go down. So what about the 15-minute? Right? You're taking this trade based on the higher time frame confluence. That if 4 hours is down, 1 hour is down, maybe 15-minute is going to go down as well. By the way, this move up here is a liquidity wick on the 4-hour. Yeah, so you watch your zones. It's very important. You watch your zones. So if you look left, let's take a look left over. Let's draw a zone right over here. Right? Does this make sense now? Right? This area over here, this area over here, this rejection, and then this rejection, right? So when you see these things and when you see the higher time frame, the 4-hour moving down, okay, well, most probably we're heading down, right? So that's when you decide that either you're going to grab this part of the move or you're going to grab this part of the move. Or, hey, fuck it. You're going to grab this part and have a stop loss at break even and let the whole thing ride. Liquidity wick. Which one, Marco? Are you talking about this one? Yeah, that's the liquidity wick on the 4 hour. Right? So this is just to show how smaller time frames will work together to create the overall larger time frame. Right? It's very important. What do you mean by liquidity wick? Liquidity wick means a wick in the opposite direction. That's what a liquidity wick means. Let's go see if I can go back from here. Okay, so see? So now, when trend is down, we're moving down, price is going to make liquidity wick. It's like fuel you need for a rocket. Right? So it starts to move opposite, grabs fuel, and then it continues to move down. Same thing right over here, right? So we rejected support. This candle moved up, this moved up, so now this candle here, it made a liquidity wick to move up. Yeah, exactly. Or like a race car, like, you know, when you have those toy cars, you pull them backwards, that means it's getting liquidity, and then you release it, and it goes forward, like a slingshot. You pull it backwards, it grabs liquidity, and then it moves up. There's a great example here in the 15-minute time frame I'm going to show you real quick. Oh, yeah, also on the 1 hour, right here. You see this? After this candle was formed, it made a liquidity wick. You're like, okay, we have enough fuel now to move up. So next candles, subsequently, they start to move up. It depends, Marco. It depends. Like sometimes the liquidity wick is going to be made at the very end, or it's going to be made at the very start. Like it all depends, right? Because the market moves in different ways. But I know for sure that in some sessions, one happens before the other. Right? So again, I come back to my point of a trading plan. It's very important that you, when you choose a time, you start observing what's happening. And based on your observations, you're taking trades. Right? Just like a baby. Like I have a 6-month-old son and he observes everything now. Right? And he will only touch things which he knows are safe to touch because he has observed them enough. Right? So now when you have observed, let's say the London Open, so you have observed it enough to have a bias that, okay, according to my observations, this is what happens most of the time. So maybe this is where I can start taking a trade. Right? But then after London, if you jump into New York, which you haven't observed, right? Then what happens? You don't know what's going to happen, right? So now you start to trade New York based on your observations in London session. So what's going to happen in New York? Are you going to win big or there's a high chance you're going to fall flat on your face? There's a high chance you're going to fall flat on your face in New York because you're applying the rules and observations of London session. Right? That's like trying to apply your culture in a third world country. It's not going to be accepted. They're probably going to kick you out. Right? So it comes with observations. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes days, right? It takes a couple of weeks to have like a clear observation. Okay, like, you know, because think about it. You're here to make money, man. And the only way you can make money is by observing first. You first observe what's happening. Rocky, when I hear your voice, I see millions. Well, thank you. Like, you know, but like, here's the thing, like, you guys are paying good money, not to like mentors, but you're paying good money to the market. You're risking money to the market, right? Like when you risk money with a mentor or whatever, you know, you're going to get information and whatnot, like that's guaranteed. But when you are risking money in the market, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees except for what you have observed. And that's always what's going to work. Right? So let's move on to the next slide. So if this is the high time frame versus the lower time frame, right? So this goes back to what your plan is, or how will you going to be a trader that you're going to develop, right? So what time frame are you most comfortable with, right? You have to ask yourself this: are you comfortable with being just in and out of the market? Like you go in, you take your pips, you stay out, or you want to hold a position for a number of hours, right? That's what you have to really, what it really comes down to, right? Like for me, and I know some people here, they want to be in and out of the market. Like they don't want to stay in the market for a long amount of time because maybe it's their risk, or maybe it's their plan, or maybe it's just what their personality is like, right? Like you're looking at 15-minute time charts and you're saying, okay, you know what? I'm only going to trade 2 15-minute candles, or I'm only going to trade 1 15-minute candle. I get my pips, my percentage or whatever, and you're done, right? Then there are guys like Javier who trade 1-hour candles, right? Like I know he's going to hold on to like 1-hour candles, or like even, you know, like some guys like Cabin, they trade 4-hour candles. They wait for 4-hour candles to close, and then they trade 4-hour and daily, like, you know, and what have you. But it all depends on how you want to structure your trading based on the type of personality you have. If you have a lot of patience, then for sure you can probably hold for 4 hours or even a couple of hours. But if you have less patience, maybe you're only going to hold it for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? Make sense? So, any questions up till now? I know we're going to have a question and answer session at the very, very end. So I want to save everything for that. I know there's also a IQ test which I have for everybody, and based on that IQ test, I'm going to put you all in different groups. Yeah, for sure, Javier. What's your question? Okay, Javier's he's taking his time to write down his question, and I always get confused with support and resistance. Okay. Okay, that's the question I got from somebody. I always get confused with support and resistance. You're probably getting confused with support and resistance because maybe you have multiple biases, or maybe you haven't looked at one certain type of a trade a lot of times. That's the only way you get confused. Right? So that's the thing. Support and resistance is easy to identify. It's always there. But if you don't put in the practice to watch it happen, again, I'm going to say it again, at the same time every day, you're probably still going to be confused, right? If you say that you're confused with your trading, or you're confused with the way that the trades are not working, then you're probably not looking at your losses and seeing, okay, why'd you take a loss? Do you keep compound account? Yeah, so yeah, it's important to keep compounding the account and make withdrawals. Okay, so Javier finally wrote down his question. What was his question? You see, yeah, I can't scroll there. Things are moving so fast, but I guess someone answered the question. When retest happens, let's say at resistance, do you wait for the completion of the confirmation candle, same candle? Yes. So when a retest happens, you can do two things. Either you can be aggressive and take the trade from the retest, or you can wait for a confirmation candle. Because more so often, it's going to keep moving in that direction where price is moving. When price breaks out, how do you get a sniper entry? Is that the company with certain company? Yeah. So when price breaks out, getting a sniper entry is at the retest. Because think about it. Where do wicks happen? Wicks happen at zones, right? So let me just draw this here really quick. Let's say you have consolidation here, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. price breaks down, does a retest, and continues down. Okay, perfect. Perfect world scenario. You have resistance, you have support, right? So where are wicks happening? Where do you see wicks? Wicks are happening at support, they're happening at resistance, and they are happening at retests. So you can take a sniper entry at a retest, but again, that's a very aggressive entry, right? And that's something you learn over time. When you see these things happen over and over again, it starts to become like, it's what I call it as that you get in sync with the market, right? And that's a very powerful thing. Like when you know exactly what's going to happen, that's when you start making profits. That's when you start making some progress and you realize, hey, like, you know what? Maybe I'm getting somewhere. But all it takes is practice, right? Every day we do webinars just to make sure that people are up to par, they know what's happening, or like, you know, like now these days in our live webinars, what we most focus on is that just take one trade and close your charts.